Okay then, good morning everyone and welcome to our webinar series. My name is Andrea Davis. I am the International Programme Manager at the Civil Service College and I am conducting today's webinar. The Civil Service College's webinars aim to connect public sector colleagues in the UK and abroad with our expert trainers. Our webinars look at topical issues and its applications with real life examples. If today is your first time joining our webinar series, we would like to welcome you and we hope you get the most out of this morning. For our alumni, welcome back. Okay, let me start off with a very brief introduction to the Civil Service College. We are an independent training organisation that offers training solutions to the UK civil service and the wider public sector. As you can see from this slide, we have delivered training to not just central government departments such as the Cabinet Office, Defra and DWP, but also devolved administrations like the Welsh Government and of course our NHS as well as local authorities. So as you can see again from this slide, this is our footprint in the UK. We also work with governments from across the world. We have delegates from many locations, from as far as the Far East, over to Africa and beyond, as shown on this world map. We conduct over 70 different types of courses across 7 categories, ranging from accountability and governance to finance and commercial skills. Today we will be talking about emotional intelligence, an essential skill for leaders in a coronavirus world, which is based on our full one-day course, Emotional Intelligence. Please do get in touch if you would like to find out more after this session. Okay, you can now join one of our open courses that are available, both virtually and face-to-face. Or Angela can tailor the training specifically to your needs. For our international audience, Angela can also deliver this virtually or fly out to your country when travel permits. Okay, so our location, we are based in the heart of Westminster, right next to St. James's Park and right opposite the Ministry of Justice. Parliament is roughly about a 10-minute walk from our office, which is right beside the Supreme Court, and that's about 5 minutes away as well. Please do visit us once the lockdown is over. And just some housekeeping rules that I'd like to make you aware of. Today's webinar will be recorded and we will email you the video in a day or two. Your colleagues who are unable to join us today, please feel free to share this recording with them later on. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of our webinars and other learning videos. Another housekeeping note, if you have a question for us, whether it is on technical issues or regarding this subject, please use the Q&A function, which is at the bottom of your screen. We will try to keep this webinar as interactive as possible. So please do share your thoughts, ask questions in the chat box. And if you are happy to share this with everyone, please have your message sent to us with the panelists and attendees included in that as well. We will try to address your questions during the presentation. If we can't, do not worry. We have some time at the very end to answer questions and answer them best possible. Okay, so as mentioned, today's title is Emotional Intelligence, an essential skill for leaders in a coronavirus world. Globally, we have faced unusual, formidable and challenging hurdles, which has had a detrimental impact on our emotions, daily living, on our relationships and within our working lives. Emotional intelligence refers to the ability to understand and manage your own emotions, as well as the emotions of the people around you. This includes the emotions of your colleagues, stakeholders, suppliers, and service users. In this unprecedented time, leaders in the workplace who have a better understanding of emotional intelligence can manage relationships effectively and will be able to make decisions and can bring people together in order to achieve positive organisational goals. We are very, very pleased to introduce our expert, Angela Blacklaw, who will be delivering this session. Angela is an independent consultant, trainer, facilitator, and she will be delivering this session with us today. She operates both strategically and on a practitioner level as well. Her skills lie in building warm, honest, authentic and challenging relationships to enable people to achieve more than they thought possible and to learn the skills to support and challenge others. She has expertise in a wide range of leadership and talent development, including emotional intelligence, communications, change, resilience, coaching skills, and systems leadership. Angela has worked on policy within the HM Treasury and Head of Internal Communications in the Food Standards Agency, Head of Communications and Culture Change in Defra, and Head of Talent Development in the Department of Health. Angela has set up her own consultancy practice and has worked on award-winning leadership programs for the NHS and is also on the coaching register for the Senior Civil Service. Not only has Angela worked in the UK, but also works internationally with various organisations and people at different levels. So, Angela, could you please tell us more about emotional intelligence?
Let me do my very best, Andrea. Thank you for that. And it's funny, as I see my own face there on the screen and I look at my reflection here with COVID hair, I think the world has changed considerably since that was taken. Andrea, could I ask you to move the slide on, please? That would be super kind. Thank you. So I'm going to invite, nearly 70 participants now, which is amazing. I'm going to invite as many of you as would like to take part in this to use the chat box to tell me what kind of emotions have you personally experienced or you have witnessed in, let's say, since March. So don't be shy, stick a few words down there and let's see, they could be positive, they could be negative, but I'd love to see your thoughts, please. What kind of emotions have you personally experienced? There we go. What else have we got? Yep. Isolated. Yeah. Unsure. Joy. Yeah. Anxiety. Fear. Trapped. Lost. Frustration. Anxiety. Worry. Opportunity. Yeah. We're seeing quite a few themes coming out here. Different things. Unsettling. This is a remarkably unprecedented time. Yeah, the joy of working at home. I hear you on that one. Thankful. Yeah. Anger. Oh yeah. Some people's misuse of public trust. If I say Bournemouth Beach, anybody? Peace, frustration, innovation. All of these expressions. Yeah. There's a lot going on. Please feel free to continue to add to this. There's so much going on emotionally. It's something of a roller coaster. That's a phrase that's used a great deal, but I think never more true than it has been lately. In a global pandemic, none of us, I don't care where you are or what you're doing, none of us is immune from the kind of emotional upheaval that comes with it. And social distancing in particular has seen levels of anxiety and depression rise significantly. Why? Loss. Almost all of us are experiencing a sense of loss, even if we also experience a sense of gain. We've talked about peace or joy, whatever. There's very much, I've just seen here from Olasanya, that mixed emotions. But part of what drives our emotions is a sense of loss. What are we losing? Income for many people, structure, routine. We're losing face-to-face social interactions. We may have lost health, particularly those who have been unwell with COVID. We may have lost members of our family or our friends. Sometimes even a sense of loss of identity. You know, if I'm not a facilitator working with people face-to-face, who am I? What does that make me? A loss of self for work, a loss of motivation. It's not always easy to get up in the morning if you haven't got something specific to get up for. A loss of meaning, and I think to a degree, a loss of the past. Somebody, I think, just noticed on the chat there, was saying appreciative of what the normal was. Thank you, Rebecca. Yeah, we've lost normal. We may never get back exactly what the past was like. People are talking a great deal about, you know, Zoom is the way forward in the future. This is how we're going to be training, connecting with each other and so on. And even at the point where we may hopefully get a vaccine, the world will have shifted a little bit because of this experience. At the same time, we're getting a lot of messages like, hey, stay positive, keep a smile on your face, it's not that bad. And in particular, and this is very much, I think, in the early stages of lockdown, do something useful with it. Be practical, learn Spanish, take up a new hobby, play guitar. There was quite an unpleasant little post somewhere on Twitter that said, if you don't learn something new during lockdown, it proves that you didn't have the time, you just didn't have the motivation. And I thought that was really quite mean. Because going through lockdown, whether you are completely isolated, like a lot of people who are shielding, or elderly, or whether you're with family, lockdown is something that we kind of have to survive. And now, as it lifts, we kind of have to survive the changes to our lives. So there is a lot going on. Excuse me, got a little frog in my throat. So let's move on to the next slide here. I was going to do it myself, Andrea, but it seems not to like me. Can you do it?
Do you want me to do it?
Cool, would you mind?
No, absolutely fine. There you go.
Thank you very much. Now, I make no apologies for this. Some of you will have seen this before, some of you haven't. And this little graph here is based on the work of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who wrote and researched a great deal on the concept of death and dying. And the kind of emotional states that she noticed among people who are facing up to the inevitability of their own deaths also reads across reasonably well to other forms of loss. So that this could be the case for organisational change, for divorce, for anything, and very much for us at the moment, dealing with the coronavirus world. Now, she does make it look neat here. And because human beings are inherently messy, it will be anything but this neat. But nevertheless, there is something of a recognisable pattern here. Yes, crisis indeed. There is something of a recognisable pattern here around when a change happens. What? Huh? Is this really happening? No, I bet it isn't. I bet it isn't. I bet it's not true. I bet really it's not happening at all. We still see evidence of denial in respect to coronavirus. You look on social media, the people who think that it's a con, that it's not really true, that the government, for some strange reason, are choosing to mess about with our economy. So beyond that, we get, actually, this is really annoying me. This is hacking me off. This is your fault. Or maybe this is my fault. Why did I make this happen? If only it wasn't like this. These are still quite high energy states. At some point, though, if we're able to work through that, we hit what is known on the graph here as depression. May I draw the distinction here between the depression of a curve and clinical depression? These are different things. The depression on this curve is, however, low mood, low energy. What's the point? It's absolutely rubbish. I hate this. Over time, and if we're able to resolve this, we get to the experimentation phase. We start seeing what life is like. We learn how to work with this. Again, this graph is a little optimistic in that it seems to assume that everything's better at the end of it than it was at the start. And I'm not quite sure that's true. Also, we are inherently messy. We go backwards and forwards and zoom around in a fairly spiral fashion around this graph. But I'm using it here to indicate really that this is one of the reasons why we may have an awful lot of difficult and negative emotions knocking around at the time of coronavirus. So Emotional intelligence. Would you mind, Andrea, stop screen sharing for a second, just so that we can do more face for now. Lovely, thank you. So what I'd like to do now, I'm going to pop you all on gallery view, so I can see as many people as I possibly can. Oh no, I can't see any of you. That's a shame. What I'd like you to do is engage with me in the chat box, please. I'm going to type in capitals the words best boss. What I'd like you to do is to think about the best boss you ever had in your life. A real person, not a fantasy boss, a real boss that you worked for. And you just thought they were the absolute best boss ever. I'm not asking you to name them. What I'm asking you to do is, could you tell me something that they did that made them the best boss ever? What did they do? Wow, 3 at the same time. Say, listen, that's fascinating. They trusted.
Trust. Listened.
They're kind, they cared, they were supportive. Oh, they didn't raise themselves above me. I like that. Patience, empathy, understanding. They stood up for me. Compassionate. They were interested. Yeah, empathetic. They helped me. Supportive. Mentorship, tolerance. Shared leadership. Authentic. Passionate.
Empowering.
Lovely. This is fabulous stuff. They challenged me. Yeah, they accepted my suggestions. They understood my position. Brilliant. There is something about these. Genuine. Yeah, authentic again. They let me be me. Thank you, Richard. That's amazing. They listened and they offered support. They believed in me. They forgave me. Thank you, Chris. These are great. And tell me now, what did it feel like to work for these bosses? What was the impact on you? Made me want to work harder. Empowering, inspiring, energy, self-confidence, made me feel valued, loyalty. Yeah, I was happy. I pushed myself. I was motivated. Yeah, valued and empowered, keep on coming up there. Made my career progression. Yeah, I was motivated. These are great. Doesn't it tell us something about these great bosses when we see the impact that they have on us? Confidence, made me want to do more, gave me an example of the manager I wanted to be. So positive role model. Okay, now forgive me, forgive me for killing the buzz here, but I would now like to know something about the worst boss you ever had. Sorry. But I would, again, a real person, and somebody that you just thought, oh, they were just awful, passive, vindictive, controlling. Yeah, controlling and blocking, uninterested, spoiled, internal politics undermining. Oh, this is coming very fast. It's coming faster than the best bosses.
The feelings coming through all of a sudden.
Yeah. So micromanaging, unreasonable.
Worthless.
Yeah, untrustworthy, lacked any emotional intelligence. Yeah, we'll get to that. Laissez-faire. Yeah, there's a difference between trusting me and just laissez-faire. I'm not interested, away you go. Last minute, combative, inflexible, worthless. Stupidity. Wow, yeah. I would, you're a technician, you are lazy, you will do nothing. I'm amazed you stayed in. That's extraordinary. Wicked. Now I'm assuming that's not like the slang wicked, like amazing. That's just a wicked person, using authority to belittle people. These are extraordinary things, really. And if again I ask you, what was the impact on you of working for these bosses? What was it like? I left, I got a new job. Fear. Fear, Claire. I remember hearing the sound of my boss's high heels stamping towards down the carpet towards me and just feeling sick. Demotivated me. Yeah, depressing. Couldn't wait to leave. Demotivated. Could not listen to the radio. They were too happy. Oh, Susan, you're breaking my heart there. Made me doubt myself. Yeah, I use an example when presenting management courses. Me too, Ian. Absolutely. bypassed him, loss of confidence. Yeah, these, look at the difference. The difference is extraordinary. And I'm looking at I don't know if I've captured everything that you've said there. Oh, being made ill by it. Awful, Robert, thank you. I don't think any of the things you said there had anything to do with knowing this stuff. I don't think any of you have said, oh, they're a subject matter expert or whatever. What you've talked about here is all the interpersonal stuff. This is the magic. And the difference that makes the difference in business, even if we're not considering the worst bosses, even if we just think the difference between an okay boss and the best bosses, the difference that makes the difference here is emotional intelligence. Andrea, could I ask you to pop the next slide up for me, please? Thank you. Here we go. Daniel Goleman. Now, Daniel Goleman was not the only or even the first person to work on the concept of emotional intelligence, although he did research it. And he went a long way towards popularizing it, starting in the 90s. But the work on it began in the 70s and 80s with people like Howard Gardner. Daniel Goleman describes emotional intelligence as this: the capacity for recognizing our own feelings and those of others, for motivating ourselves, for managing emotions well in ourselves and in our relationships. And, you know, is this a modern concept? Well, talking about it in these terms is, but Andrea, if you wouldn't mind skipping to the next slide. The concept's been around since BC. This is Aristotle. And he said, anyone can become angry. That's easy. But to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way, this is maybe not so easy. And I like this quote in particular because it does demonstrate that emotional intelligence is not about being vanilla. It's not about being inoffensive and mild. What it is about being in control of how you are expressing your emotions. You might have every right to be angry. It may be something to do with how we express it, though. I had a boss, the same one with the high heels spiking down the carpet, who once slammed the door on me in her anger so hard her name fell off the door. I would submit that that is not a helpful expression of anger. So let's start talking then about the separate components of emotional intelligence. It's not just a wobbly concept. There are some specific ideas and competences that sit underneath this. Andrea, would you be very kind and pop us onto the next slide? Yep. And hooray, hooray, it's a 4-box model. We love them in training. We can't live without them. But let me just very, very quickly explain the concept of this. So along the horizontal axis here, we've got the distinction between self and other people. And going down on the vertical axis there, we've got awareness, in other words, stuff we know, and actions, or stuff we do. So let's start in that top left-hand corner. You take self, you take awareness. What have you got? Self-awareness. Self-awareness is the absolute cornerstone of emotional intelligence. Frankly, I would say it's the absolute cornerstone of all leadership development. But specifically this. Self-awareness is the degree to which we understand what makes us tick. Do we understand what we're good at, what we are not so good at? Do we understand what we like and we dislike? Do we understand what emotions are going on with us right now? I don't know if anybody on the webinar engages in mindfulness at all. It's something I'm really beginning to get into this year, and it is fantastically useful for just recognizing what is going on emotionally. You think you think you'd know, wouldn't you? Like, you'd know if you're angry, you'd know if you're upset. It's remarkable, actually, how often we don't tune in to our own emotional state. So if I've got lots of self-awareness, I understand me. I understand my needs and my drives and what affects me. I understand what my triggers are. Like for me, one of my triggers is being told what to do. You know, hands up, it's a trigger. At least I know about it. And it means that our confidence is based on a realistic assessment of our strengths. So we're not mistakenly thinking, oh, I'm amazing at chairing meetings, when actually we're not. But equally, we're not hiding our light under a bushel. We are looking realistically at what we're good at. It also means being open to feedback. Self-awareness is very difficult to develop without the assistance of other people. Now, you might go a long way with self-reflection. You might go a long way using psychometric kits and so on. But there is something about understanding how others perceive you that is golden in terms of this. So if we're prepared to receive feedback, we can develop new skills. If we realize we are a bit pants at chairing a meeting, we can do something about it. We can develop those abilities, and we won't get in trouble attempting things that we're simply not ready for yet because of our skill levels. And if we have a more realistic appreciation of what we are actually good at, well, we'll be that bit more confident and therefore that bit more influential. So if we think back for a second, I'm just going to nip back to the chat and think about your best bosses there for a bit. Oh, I have to go quite high up here because there are an awful lot of poor bosses as well. But my guess is, yeah, confidence and so on. A lot of them, whether we see it or not, your best bosses would have had probably quite good self-awareness. Let's move to, we're staying up with awareness, but we're moving to the other side now. We're going to look at social awareness. Social awareness is the degree to which we can see situations from other people's perspectives. Can we show empathy? And I remember that word coming up a few times with best bosses. How are other people feeling? What's going on? What are their concerns? Can I empathize not only with individuals, but with groups? Can I also, and this is known as organizational awareness, can I read how things happen in an organization? How do I know how to get things done? Where does the power really lie? We can all look at an organizational chart, and that's fine. But is that really where the power lies? Who do I really need to talk to get things done around here? Can I read the world around me? Daniel Goleman talks about it as a kind of social radar that we're able not to transmit, but to receive data from others. So I remember so many people put in the word listen with their best bosses. They talked about the degree to which they felt heard by them, understood by them, and so on. So yeah, if we're good in social awareness, we listen, we understand other people, we maybe pick up on body language or tone as well, so that we become very good at reading people. And the payoff basically is that if we understand other people's perspectives, we're going to make better decisions. If people feel we have listened to their views, they're more likely to buy into our decisions, even if they didn't agree with them to begin with. If you understand how the organization works, you're going to know who the right people are to talk to. And if you understand your customers, your stakeholders' needs, you're going to be much more likely to provide a better service for them. Now, what's interesting, I think, is the chances of developing social awareness without first developing self-awareness are quite low. It's something in the region of 18%. Again, just highlighting how crucial self-awareness is. So Let's talk about self again, but this time with the action. So this is self-management. Now, Daniel Goleman says, I'm reading this bit, the ability to keep your disruptive emotions and impulses in check to maintain your effectiveness under stressful, coronavirus, or even hostile conditions, staying clear-headed and calm. Now, interestingly here, self-management is the biggest blocker to promotion. It is the thing most likely to stand in our way in terms of career progression. I remember this being a huge issue for me as a junior manager in particular. I thought I was just being authentic, right? And just sort of saying it like it was, when actually I was just not controlling my impulses very well. So I find this often helpful to think about in terms of accelerator and brake. There are times we need to put a brake on things, to zip it, to shush, to hold back, to not jump in on our first impulse without thinking about things. There are times, therefore, we just need to rein it in. But it's not just about pulling it back. Sometimes what we need to do is push ourselves forward. My natural inclination may be to just passive, I think, came up as one of the things that the bad bosses did. Or laissez-faire. Maybe what I need to do is get involved. I need to step forward. I need to speak up and be heard. So self-management is about, okay, my feelings, all right, fine, I feel angry. Is it going to help if I express anger? If it is going to help, then how shall I express it? What will I do? So I will need to choose my words. I might need to hold back on making a rapid judgment about somebody or something. I need to follow through on my promises. If I said I was going to do something, then unless there are remarkably good reasons, I need to do that. And if for some reason I can't, I need to explain myself. I need to remain open to new things. This can be really hard at times, particularly when we're stressed. We tend to retreat in and stop being open to new ideas. We need to push ourselves to achieve, even if we're tired, even if we're exhausted. Although having said that, we also sometimes need to just stop, take some me time, take some rest and relaxation. Otherwise, we can't be there consistently for other people. What's the payoff? Well, you're less likely to regret your impulses. You're less likely to think, oh, wish I hadn't said that, if you've taken some time to think first. You're also going to make the best of opportunities. Self-management here, it says actions, but actually I would also expand this into how we think. We sometimes think we are at the mercy of our thoughts. Self-management will include actually choosing optimism. I choose to be optimistic in the face of difficulty. I choose to believe that there is a way through this. So it does involve, if you like, a bit of brain training as well. The chances of being good at self-management, if you are not already skilled at self-awareness, they're only 6%. You cannot control yourself if you do not understand yourself, which takes us back again and again to self-awareness. So if we just look at the best bosses, worst bosses for a second here, what do we notice there about self-management? Let's have a look. Andrea, what do you notice when I'm having a look here? I see confidence, and that's maybe both a self-awareness, but also a self-management. I choose to project confidence to people. Moronic, I love that. Constantly talked me down. Again, that's self-management. I could shush and listen, or I could just talk on top of you. threatening. Ooh, Rob, and I don't want to pick on you here, but I'd love to know what that person did that was threatening. Are you able to add just a little bit of detail on that one?
It's also interesting about the outcomes of these emotions as well. As somebody put, they requested for a transfer. So it has to get to that point of feeling that emotion to go that far.
Yeah, exactly.
Fear of going to work.
Yeah. Unreasonable. So again, if we're not listening, if untrustworthy, there we go, Donna mentioned that one as well. Untrustworthy. So if people, I mean, trust is composed of a number of different factors, but often it's got to do with, did they do what they said they would? Are they? Thank you, Rob, that's very kind of you. Let me just whiz down, take a wee look at that. I had been appointed by a manager who was not popular. My own future was in doubt. Oh, Rob, that's awful. Yeah, so that's a combination there of a lack of empathy. What is it like for somebody to be in their first management position? And saying some stuff that is not helpful for that person to hear. Thank you. Appreciate that, Rob. Thank you. So let's move on to that fourth quadrant.
We actually got a question through.
Oh, do we? Andrea, let's go for it. What's the question?
From one of our participants. Is it our modern lifestyle that makes us less aware of our own emotions? We are often busy and we communicate online.
That's a great question. I can't know for certain, but my suspicion is absolutely. I think we have a cultural expectation that we will respond quickly to things, that busyness means running around from one meeting to another meeting, or in our case now, zooming one Zoom after another Zoom after another one. And I think stillness, thinking, is not evidently prized and rewarded. It's only through stillness that, if you like, the conjunction between our unconscious mind and our conscious mind can be more easily bridged. And the unconscious mind is a repository of all sorts of fascinating, juicy, interesting, useful stuff. But if we are running around, trying to do too much, busying, and I think there is a kind of norm of the legitimacy of interruption. Yes, of course it's okay to interrupt me. Oh, an email's just come in, I need to deal with it. Oh, my phone has pinged. Let me go and deal with that. Now, we can, I think, take some steps to counter those cultural norms. I think there are things that we can do. I never have a pop-up for email, for example. Can't bear it. It's just, I'm just thinking about something and bing, and my phone is, when it's on, it's off at the moment. When it's on, it's usually on silent because I don't want to hear the pings and bongs, which take me away from what I'm doing. I told you I was getting into mindfulness this year. My natural tendency is to keep on going and keep doing stuff. So it's been challenging for me to embrace stillness. But I'm beginning to feel some distinct benefits. So yes. And I think we can use our self-management to do something different about it. Does that help? I'm going to click answer live. I hope that will be good.
Okay, if just want to remind participants, if you do want to ask Angela any questions throughout the session, just use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. You can ask as many questions as you'd wish. So should we move on to the next screen, Angela?
Not yet, Andrea. I just want to mention relationship management before we go there. And this is really the culmination of the other three. If we're good at self-awareness, we are much more able to use social awareness and self-management. So by using our social awareness, we can scan the world around us understand maybe what's going on with other people, take some time to explore and investigate and be curious and so on. And as a result of that, of understanding the world, we are better able to make the right choices in terms of our behavior. That then enables us, it's like I say almost the end point, perhaps not quite the end point. We can then create better relationships. We're better able to influence. We are better able to work in teams. We are better able to collaborate. We are better able to develop those around us. We are better able to inspire. And really, I feel I should have a little arrow just coming out the bottom of relationship management there, which takes us to outcomes. Because as you yourselves noticed, having an amazing boss that's really good at emotional intelligence makes you want to work more. It makes you highly motivated. You bring what we would call discretionary effort, that extra va-va-voom. You want to do your best for them. It's a personal joy to do so. And that has its impact on results. So I'm happy to take, I see your questions popped up there, Andrew. I'm really happy to take it. Oh, it's you again. Hello. What we got?
In some countries, one of the civil service values is to be selfless. But according to what you are saying, we need to recognise individuals and understand complexity of emotions across the organisation. Would this not compromise the quality of public services by involving our emotions?
Oh, that's such a good question. I love it. This is fab. So thank you. To be selfless, we need to understand, would this not compromise the quality of, by involving our emotions? I think we cannot not involve our emotions. If we are bringing ourselves to work, our whole selves. Now, I hear what you say. I mean, having been a civil servant for myself for 25 years, I absolutely get that. There is a degree, I used to call it, in my mind, when I was working in policy, doublethink. So that, okay, I'm here to serve the government of the day, and that is how I will do it. And there may not be the policies that I would have voted for. I maybe didn't vote for this government. But I think the strength, certainly of the UK civil service and many civil services around the world, is their independence from politics and their ability, therefore, to work for whoever the government of the day is. So you've lost sound, Ian. Is that just a problem for you or for others? Assuming it's just you, then you might want to pop back out and pop back in again. So involving our emotions, I think it is very hard not to. And if we think about positive emotions we might want to involve, such as joy, curiosity, excitement, and cheers, Chris, thank you for that confirmation, sounds good. I think we would be the poorer at work for not bringing our emotions, not bringing relationships that are genuine and authentic. I think we would be less ourselves. We would be withholding a significant portion of who we are, which means that our identities at work would not be fully authentic. And then how can we trust people around us if they're not really authentic, if they're not really being themselves? Now, I think it's the degree to it. So in a sense, you cannot not bring your emotions. You're just there, your emotions are there. The question then for me is, how do we express them? If I get cross at a minister because I think the minister is making a bad decision, I don't think it's going to benefit me to go, well, that's really stupid, minister. Or as we used to say in the UK civil service, with all due respect, minister, which was a big flag for, I think, you're being a bit stupid. I don't think that's particularly helpful. It doesn't seem to me to be a respectful interaction. But if we are able to go, I'm really concerned that if they go down this route, they will not achieve the policy outcome that they need to achieve in the best possible way for the country. then can I harness my frustration into something more useful? So I think ultimate objectivity, I think, is a myth. We are human beings and we need to engage our humanity in the work that we do. I hope that makes some sense. Thank you. Anonymous attendee, hello. You mentioned earlier about controlling your response to your emotions. Does a recent one-to-one meeting, my depression got the better of me? Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. And I ended up crying as I could not control my emotions at that moment. Is it a weakness to allow your emotions to slip out? Oh, Chris, you said you want to answer this question live, is that right? No, I'm going to answer it myself. Absolutely not. It is not a weakness, particularly not when you're suffering from depression. Absolutely not. I'm so sorry that you're experiencing that now. There's a lot of depression in my family, and I absolutely sympathise with you. So I would say that if you are actively suffering from depression to the point where, particularly in a one-to-one meeting, which probably was quite personal, I'm guessing, maybe that was with your line manager, I'm not quite sure, and you don't have to give any more detail if you don't want to. That says something to me, that you felt able enough to trust the other person, that it was an okay space for you to share that emotion. The question is, I guess, and I'll be very, I know I'm with 70 people, most of whom I don't know here, but I'm going to be very frank with you and very, very vulnerable about something. I lost my father 10 weeks ago, I think, to COVID. There have been times that it's been quite difficult for me to contain my emotional expression around that. Grief, depression, anxiety, things like that, they are really difficult. Now, what I have chosen during an acute period of trouble like this is I chose just to limit some of my interactions until I was confident that I would be able to manage it in real time. And still now that varies day to day onto whether or not it's easy or not so easy for me to do that. So I would say when we are perhaps in the grip of something very difficult, particularly if it's in a very acute phase, we might choose to back off from some of the most acute stressors that be most likely to trigger us. I do hope that you feel better very soon, by the way. So where are we now? Oh, thank you. No worries, guys. Thank you. So, Andrea, could we click to the next slide, please? Oh, thank you, Joanne. Anyone who saw that as a weakness would not have emotional intelligence. Yeah, absolutely. And yes, Seifel, that was, yes, Minister, that's a very interesting suggestion, Minister. So my invitation to you now is to take a little look at this model, and this time I've got a sentence or two under each of these descriptors, and maybe just in the chat box, say, which one do you think you might want to focus on most? Is it understanding yourself? Is it reading other people? Is it this notion of self-control, self-management? Or is it just deliberately using these things in order to create the most powerful relationships? It'd just be really interesting to hear from that. And while that's happening, I'll pick up another couple of questions. Oh no, we've got them now, have we? Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so feel free to use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen if you do have any questions. Or you can continue to talk in the chat box if you wish.
Yeah, a couple of self-managements. Yeah, understand myself first. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, lovely. That's great. So we're getting quite close to finishing up here. I spent probably another 5 minutes max on this. So this would be a really good opportunity if there's anything. I'm starting to catch anxiety. Oh, yeah, wow, that's interesting, Fabio. It'd be really interesting just to catch one or two final questions on this. And then otherwise, there's lots of good reading around. Daniel Goleman in particular has written some very accessible literature on this. And of course, we run some training on it as well, where we can go into much more detail about each of these elements, but also how to develop them, crucially. What else we got going on in chat? Oh yeah, imposter syndrome. Absolutely. Yes, imposter syndrome can get right in the way of our self-awareness. What's fascinating, I don't know the stats on it, but almost everybody's got it, Claire. So it's remarkable that we must all be imposters in this world, because it's super common. Even now, even when Andrea introduces me as an expert, I have this little, oh, really, am I an expert? Yeah. And I've been working in this stuff for ages. So it's very pervasive, and we do need to deal with that. I want to share this model with colleagues at my council. Go for it, Rob, I say. Delighted to hear it. Right. I think, are we coming to the end of what we need to cover today? So Daniel Goleman just want to leave you with this wee quote here. In a very real sense, we have two minds, said Daniel Goleman. One that thinks and one that feels. And we talked earlier a little bit about, you know, should we bring our feelings to work? Try not bringing them to work and see how that gets you. The risk is, if we don't bring them to work in a conscious way, they will erupt in an unconscious way. Oh, do you recommend psychometrics to assess emotional intelligence? I jolly well do, Amanda, yes. I'm not sure that I'd say, and this one or these two are the best. Psychometrics tend to measure slightly different things. Myers-Briggs is super common in the civil service. Things like Talent Q are massively comprehensive, as is 16PF and so on. Yes, Amanda, I do recommend psychometrics. There's some very good emotional intelligence psychometrics as well. Jamie, when trying to be socially aware and you identify the person needs to be more self-aware of their own emotion, how can this be shown to them? The person I have in mind tends to get in an emotional state and then shut down. Yeah, a lot will depend on your relationship with that person, Jamie. If, for example, you are their line manager, then you automatically have, I think, an easy or an easier entry point with that. If they are your boss, then it's a more difficult one. What you will definitely need to develop first is trust, and we could have a whole hour easily on the components of trust. They will need to be very sure that you have their best interests at heart. A really good resource on that is, I hate it when my mind doesn't work as quickly as I would like it to. It's a way of having honest conversations. I might have to get back to you on it, Jamie, but it's a very good book to read about how to be quite honest with people in such a way as they still get that you are rooting for them and you want them to succeed, because that's really what you need to address there. Musa, do you have any world leader who you respect his or her emotional intelligence? Yeah, the wonderful woman in New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern. I may not be getting the first name entirely right, but Ardern, the New Zealand Prime Minister. I think her emotional intelligence is phenomenal. She's truthful, she's honest, she's vulnerable. Yeah, she's got my vote. Yes, thank you. Oh, even better. Thank you, Sophie. Jacinda Ardern. So yes, absolutely I do. Okay.
Is there any more questions that anyone would like to ask Angela? Please do use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen if you feel like you have any questions or would like to make a comment on anything. We still have a couple of minutes left.
Yeah, I can just say, Ian, yes, enthusiasm is an emotional response. So we do want emotions in the workplace. Yeah, I think, if you don't bring enthusiasm, passion, love to the workplace, we lock ourselves up. We don't have nearly as much energy and excitement for doing what we're doing. We might as well be robots. Who wants to be that? Thank you, Ragan. I'm glad you enjoyed the webinar. Thank you.
Right, okay, so we are actually coming towards the end of the session now. I'd just like to thank all of the participants for attending. If you do have any questions, please do feel free to contact us directly. This is our social, just go back on that a second. Please do contact us via email or go on our social media if you do have any questions at all. I'd just like to thank Angela for taking the time to answer all the questions and giving us a better insight into emotional intelligence. We do hope that you can take something away this morning. But again, please do, if you have any further questions after today, get in touch via our social media or our email. Thank you so much, Angela, for your time.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it. Thank you for your interactions, guys. It really makes the event. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that's it. Thank you, everyone.
All right then. Bye.